Hokage, clocking in unlocks forbidden Jutsu rewards. Episode 91. The village of Mist Hidden is now controlled by the fourth generation of Mizuki Yukura. In fact, Yukura has been controlled by Obito for many years. That's why there is the Blood Mist Age. Obito vented this product in the Mist Hidden village, driving away many blood step families and ninjas. And through the cruel elimination system, let the water ninja kill each other. There was mourning and complaints. This kind of hand blade master, the person who killed a village. I can actually fall under my mouth. It is enough that there are people who are willing to keep their mouths shut. All in all, Wuing Village is a back garden with soil, a small treasury. This product is smashed at the root. I am afraid that I will not think that someone will steal his hometown. Since you decided to steal crystals, you have to be fast. Fang Yu took a task to go to the vicinity of Wuing Village to maintain the clock and reward at work. Then holding the red bean, flying all the way to Thor. This time is better than the last time, only once transferred to the vicinity of Wuing Village, his face is not red, just a little breathless. The total time is only 4 or 5 hours. With the footsteps with soil, I am afraid that it will take 10 days to get to Wuing Village. 10 days is enough time to do a lot. When he arrived at the contact point to see Hinata, he was startled. Rich had changed from white clothes to black clothes, puffed up, and his beard was very dusty. It's like an old house that has been at home for 10 years. It's just that the more beautiful Samui is, the more flavorful it is. The day difference is a sour smell in the house. Fang Yu looked at the day difference, and the day difference also looked at the day difference, a little hesitant. He had never seen the true face of Feng Yu before. At this time, it seems that the long black hair and handsome face are really Tuyu Jibwa. But the flying thunder god just now can't be fake, and Red Bean's attitude is even more so. Hinata hesitated. You are not Senju. Fang Yu said, when did I say that my surname is Senju? Hinata was stunned, but you will be dumbfounded. Fang Yu gave him a blank look. Who said that Mudan is 1,000 hands, can't I be talented? Hinata made a bitter face and reluctantly accepted. Anyway, the family has received new news through psychic beasts. Konoha's pattern has changed now, and the position of the 3 generations can be replaced at any time. The status of the Hyuga family has also risen to another level, and at this time, to blame others, that is to repay the complaint with virtue. It's just a little unexpected that the person who helped the Hyuga family turned out to be the Uchiha clan they have always regarded as an opponent. Tell me about the current intelligence. Frightened Yu lay down and closed his eyes to take a nap. Hinata sorted out his thoughts and said, now it has been confirmed that there are people on the Wuing village who remember righteousness. Marshal of Mist Hidden Village has gathered about 300 ninja elites, and is currently gathering some rebel ninjas, and is hoarding ninja tools in large quantities. But even in the team that resisted Water Shadow, there were differences. Momochi pulled a team without cutting himself and wanted to go it alone. However, they are small in number and will probably not succeed. Fang Yu nodded. How long is it expected to start? Hinata slowly shook his head. It's hard to say, but it won't take more than half a month. If time drags on, blind people can see their intentions. Fang Yu frowned slightly. Half a month is a bit long. It seems to accelerate the process of changing the pattern of Wuing Village. At present, there are 3 forces in Wuing Village. The 4th generation of Mizuki Yukura under control, and a small number of loyal subordinates. The rebel army led by the marshal was larger in number, but more mixed. If you don't cut the team you pulled, this can be ignored. There is no plan to cut the coup d'état, just a simple blind confidence, thinking that he can cut through 4 generations of water shadows. It is the party that is doomed to failure. Fang Yu pointed his fingers at the armrest, closed his eyes, and thought slightly. When the rebels are too slow, they can only find a quick solution to the problem. He opened his eyes. Hinata, go in with me. Red beans are guarding the point of contact here. Seeing his serious appearance, Hondo nodded earnestly. It's okay to be coquettish on weekdays, but it's not okay for children to have private affairs at critical moments. Hinata hesitated. Then where are we going? Fang Yu looked at the twilight outside the window and said in a deep voice, Water Shadow Hall. When night was about to fall, 2 figures streaked over the village of Wuin. Hinata rolled his eyes, jumping in and out, jumping left and right. 1 kilometer of perspective, he tried to avoid all those who had Chakra's reaction, and no matter how bad it was, he would not appear within 500 meters of the other party. Frightened Feather is almost all the way sightseeing. Let the humanoid radar around you do its job. Occasionally encountering an enchantment, or a pile of people who can't be avoided, they go over to establish coordinates and avoid perception with a day difference. The combination of white eyes and flying thunder god, not to mention the withering fog hidden village, even the cloud hidden village can also shuttle freely. 800 meters ahead. Hinata wiped his cold sweat and reminded. The two went into the shinobi village alone, which was still too exciting for him. If it weren't for the presence of the flying thunder god, once the two were discovered, they would be beaten to death. Thousands of ninjas don't eat rice. At this time, a cylindrical building about 20 meters high appeared in front of the two people. The fourth generation of Mizukage Ukura lives in the Mizukage Hall all year round and does not leave. Hinata trembled and asked, "Little sir, are you planning to negotiate with Water Shadow? I heard that after the 4 generations of Water Shadow War, his temperament changed greatly, and he was cruel and bloodthirsty. Let's talk to the rebels, I have eyeliner on their side and can help with the line." Fingyu looked at him as if it were leisurely. Hinata wiped his sweat and didn't dare to say any more. At the right moment, repeatedly questioning decision-makers is a taboo task. He tasted back, bowed his head slightly, a little ashamed. The two came to the Water Shadow Hall more than 200 meters away and landed at an off-angle. Fangyu said, "Report the location of the assassination department and Shueing." Hinata stared at it and reported the positions one by one. What Feather perceives is a one-to-one correspondence with the day difference. At first it was the same, but then it was a little different. Hinata stared below the building. There is an underground building 300 meters ahead, and 27 ninjas are active, which looks like a department. It seems that it is either the assassination department or the intelligence department. Fangyu nodded. "Within a kilometer, you find a safe place to wait." Then he sealed the seal with one hand, and the dense flying thunder god mark spread from the bottom of his feet, like a snake moving forward. A minute later, a black light flashed. Frightened You appeared in the hall. Episode 92. Inside the empty Water Shadow Hall. In addition to the long stone conference table in the hall, there is only one stone seat. On the stone seat sat a teenager. Short green hair, centipede scar on his left eye, wearing a blue and white water shadow cape, dull like a puppet. He looked down. Rows of black F's emerged from the cracks in the stone slabs, and they climbed up hand in hand. The boy is the 4th generation of Mizukage Citrus Ukura who is controlled by Obito's kaleidoscope, and now he controls Obito is not around, and he is mentally incomplete, lying on the ground and looking stupidly at the villain-like letters, like a child studying ants. Ukura tentatively reached out his hand to tease them. A foot appeared out of thin air and stepped on the letter. Ukura's face changed. A crimson chakra loomed. He raised his head sharply, and his dull pupils turned into beast-like vertical pupils. Fangyu raised his eyebrows, slightly surprised. "I didn't expect to see this form of Ukura as soon as I entered the door. Why is this guy so angry when they first met?" Fangyu suppressed his doubts and opened his eyes. A scarlet light seemed to flash in the hall. He aimed his kaleidoscope at Ukura's eyes. Ukura's body was slightly startled, and the ferocity instantly dissipated, but there was a force that forcibly pulled him to confront Fangyu. Like a small beast crawling on the ground, shivering but refusing to admit defeat. Fangyu felt his pupil power gradually disappearing, and frowned slightly. Obito's method of controlling Ukura itself is very simple, just suppress reason with pupil power, and he only needs to consume that pupil power. The problem is that Obito will come to replenish pupil power from time to time, and Feather needs to consume the pupil power accumulated by Obito at one time. And all around, there was faint movement. The tailed beast chakra that Ukura had just flashed away was keenly sensed by the assassination department and was rushing to this side. "Gotta speed up." Fangyu's body glowed with fluorescent green light, and the majestic vitality was directly poured into the eyes, so that the pupil power could be output unscrupulously. "What man? Someone assassinated. Come." Several members of the assassination department arrived and were shocked to see Fangyu. Seeing that the water shadow seemed to be controlled, shuriken and ninjutsu immediately greeted over. Wrapped in Chakra's shuriken, Sanban attacked. Fangyu snorted coldly, and the green light on his body dissipated, replaced by translucent golden armor. Ding ding. Shuriken and Sanban are scattered all over the place. At this time, the blood color in Ukura's eyes gradually receded, and he was much clearer. Illusion, solution. Fangyu's eyes widened, and the last trace of pupil power in Ukura's body was dispersed. Ukura was shocked and went from being on all fours to sitting on his knees. For many years, he has been watching from the perspective of a bystander, watching the masked man manipulate him to implement various bloody policies, turning the misty hidden village into the blood mist village. Former companions, former subordinates, former villagers, rebels, flees, dies. Ukura looked at his hands, his body trembling. The skin is white, but it exudes a disgusting fishy odor. Tick. Tick. Yukura's eyes widened, tears streaming into beads, constantly falling on the palms of his hands. Those tragedies kept flashing in his mind, and finally, he froze on a pair of scarlet eyes. Yukura's body froze and suddenly looked up into Fenga's eyes. Countless crimson bubbles appeared on him, and the majestic power brought him to his feet and formed a scarlet chakra cloak on him. Feng Yu is remobilizing Mu Dun and restoring his pupil power. Seeing Yukura look like this, he frowned. This guy's years of suppressed sadness and anger, coupled with an aversion to the kaleidoscope, it was a real headache to erupt in this instant. After all, he is a perfect person. Frightened Yu originally planned to use a kaleidoscope to regain control of Yukura at this moment, but the plan could not catch up with the changes, and the pupil power consumed was a bit too much. If you can't suppress it with pupil technique, then suppress it violently. Roar. Yukura roared, and three tails appeared from behind. The high-density and violent chakra directly blew the hall to pieces. He waved his hand abruptly, and brute force set off a storm. Members of the assassination department flew out upside down. The feather golden shield armor was protected in front of him, and he used his strength to pass through the ceiling and directly came to the sky. The silhouette of the mist-hidden village appeared in his perspective. Tailed beast-eyed Yukura, standing in the shattered hall and roaring. Boom! Yukura squatted slightly, jumped tens of meters high, and went straight to the feather. Huh, the little turtle is also rampant? Frightened Feather calmly sealed. As soon as the cannonball-like Yukura arrived, he clapped his hands down. Mu Dun, birth of the tree realm. 3 human-thick trees entangled with each other like vines, wrapping Yukura in it and holding it to death. Bang! The branches were 50 meters long and smashed like the ground. The branches took root, and in an instant, dozens of giant trees came out of the ground. Dozens turned into hundreds of giant trees. In just 2 breaths, a radius of hundreds of meters was turned into a primeval forest. In the middle of the forest, countless branches are like living creatures, constantly catching the 3 tails. Yukura moved left and right, there was no way to avoid it, and all the limbs, mouth, and tail were used, but they couldn't be slashed. That being the case, it no longer avoids. Yukura was firmly bound and looked up with hatred. Crunch! Crunch! Yukura's figure gradually expanded, breaking the branches tied to his body layer by layer. Whoosh! A giant turtle with a body length of more than 100 meters and 3 long tails appeared. 3-tailed Isafu, showing the original form. Facing the giant trees that followed, the 3 tails curled up like a hedgehog, dropping the tortoise shell and barbs on the tail outside. Physical skills, shadow caressing. Mio Isafu quickly turned his body and crushed all the branches stretching out around him. And by virtue of the terrain, like a cannonball, break through the primeval forest. Stretch your body in the air and open your huge mouth to charge your power. A giant water cannon with a diameter of 10 meters gradually took shape. Feng Yu shook his head slightly, it's too slow. His right hand emitted a brilliant green light and jerked it. The ground forest poked out hundreds of branches and grabbed the tail of the 3-tailed Isafu. And he himself, with a layer of black on his right hand and his elbows back, also began to charge his strength. Shui Dun Iron Cannonball. The terrifying giant water cannon smashed into the feather. The feather flashed in an instant, and the person had already arrived above the head of the 3 tails. The black fist is right in front of it. Xiaorua dust, but caught with the sound of the wind. 5 elements of earth aggravate the rock fist technique. Rumble. A bang. As fast as the 3 tails come, they will go back. The body was fiercely embedded in the ground, making the entire mist-hidden village tremble. Episode 93. Before the battle in the center of the village was intense, the news was spread to the hands of all forces. Wuyin village had witnessed 2 marshals of Water Shadow, and instantly gathered good people. A dozen leaders appeared in the dimly lit conference room. His cloudy gaze swept across the audience. It ended up stuck with a brown-haired woman in her early 20s. He is still old, and if this uprising succeeds, Shueying will not be able to be a few days. The woman in front of him was the one who was most likely to take the Water Shadow position from him. Terumi. At this time, a member of the assassination department wearing a mask hurriedly arrived and hurriedly reported, there is an assassin invasion and is fighting with the 4th generation of Water Shadows. The marshal said, how many people are on the other side? The assassination department said, only one has been seen so far. The marshal frowned and said, do you see who it is? The assassination department shook its head, the 4th generation has gone violently, and we dare not get too close. In addition, it is another night, a battle of this scale is completely beyond their ability, even if they play soy sauce on the edge, there is a possibility of violent death. Jiao Mei said at this time, could it be that you don't kill that guy again? No more, she was once in charge of contact. It's a pity that the guy is unruly, but thinks that their side is grinding and chirping, and it is useless, and he recruited a group of people to go it alone. With his impatient nature, the possibility of directly rushing in and cutting the fourth generation is not small. The marshal shook his head, whether it is him or not, we can't sit still. This time, the 4 generations have been impacted, and they will definitely strengthen their vigilance in the future. He clenched his fists, don't miss the opportunity. Call all the people you can call now. We kill into the water shadow hall. At the same moment, he rushed to the battlefield with about 10 people. He also thought that the marshal's side had launched an attack in advance, and secretly hated this old man for coming to grab the position, so he gathered his men and hurried to rush there. No more chopping people, lean. The build-up was fast. When they arrived near the battlefield, they did not see the marshal's group, but the frontal battlefield had ended. Mio Iso sank into the crack in the ground, struggling not to move. Hundreds of members of the assassination department around him, trembling, surrounded a teenager. Don't frown anymore. It seems that a third party has stepped in. Golden opportunity. The 4th generation of that guy is lying now, just kill this kid. No more smiling and one hand up. Ninjutsu missed concealment. A faint mist spread, and by the time everyone noticed it, the fog was thick. Oops, this is. The ghost man is coming. The members of the assassination department, who were confronting the murderer, exclaimed. Soon there were screams in the crowd. The average strength of the members of the assassination department is good, but it is far from the opponent that the ghosts will not kill. After solving a few people who were blocking the way, he did not cut his body and scattered all over his body, and the whole person's breath seemed to merge with the dense fog. Misting, silent killing. This is a stunt that never becomes famous again. The name of the ghost man, in addition to the fact that he killed too many people, also has another meaning, the god is haunted. This mist hides the world, he is the master. No longer hide in the fog, flutter with the fog. Seeing that the boy was motionless, he smiled strangely and said, little ghost, although I don't know what method you used to solve Yukura, I have to thank you for helping me clear the obstacles. Don't worry, I will let you die a very happy death. His voice echoed throughout the foggy area, unable to be located. It's like a ghost. It is impossible to see visually in the fog. He can act silently again. In this closed environment, if you don't kill it, you will act as a demon that determines life and death. Verbal provocation puts pressure on ordinary ninjas, either incompetent and furious or desperate. This set of processes is not very skillful. Also very competent. He was expecting the kid's reaction. Huh? In the mist, he saw a pair of scarlet eyes, looking through the mist to the location of his real body. Seen through the location? Don't be shocked again. This is the first time it has been seen through. Those eyes are the legendary Sharingan? However, the ability to see through the wheel eye should not be so strong. This kid, good luck. No longer cut the secret way, the other party is just a fluke, quietly move the position. This time, he simply came to the position 2 meters behind Fanyu. The Uchiha family actually meddled in the Wuin village? Hehe, boy, did Yukura do it with your Uchiha family? You Konoha, are you trying to start a war? In the fog, the words that were not cut reverberated again. Speculation that Yukura was controlled is not uncommon. There is no faint feeling of it, and it is said that someone around Terumi has discovered the abnormality of Yukura. When he saw Fanyu's eyes, he naturally guessed. War. Frightened, you turned back and looked at Zaibu chopping. I said I came to send you peace, do you believe it? At this time, he was holding Ku Wu high, preparing to sneak attack. The 4 eyes are opposite each other, a little embarrassed. This guy really has the ability to see through the fog. Don't be embarrassed, just storm it. Boom. The knife is accurately inserted into the bitter bottomless buckle, and it cannot be cut in. But his mouth was cracked under his bandage. In the fog, the 3 of them were surrounded by no more. Without chopping his hand to clasp the hand of the frightened feather-carrying knife, the 3 water bodies attacked. A sigh sounded. Haven't you ever heard of one-handed sealing? Fanyu flipped quickly with one hand and spit out a fire dragon from his mouth. Fire, the art of fire of the dragon. The 1-meter-thick fire dragon shook its head and swung its tail to directly scatter the 2 water bodies, and wanted to kill the last survivor in one mouthful. The fire dragon then flew into the air and exploded, dissolving all the mist around it. Clarity returns to all directions. If you don't cut the situation, let go of the bitterness and retreat. Fanyu held Ku Wu with his backhand and casually threw it to Zai Wu. Ku-Wu split into two in the air, 2 turned into 4, and 4 turned into a black rain. There is nowhere to hide. No more hurriedly scattered a few and fell into the rain. I had to protect the key point and was nailed to the wall. Fang Yu shook his head helplessly. This strength also wants to assassinate Xue Ying. This guy's technique is also easy to use. He looked around, and after the thick fog cleared, there were many more people in the room. To his left, a vote of more than 100 people of Water Shadow. On his right, there were more than 300 ninjas, and thousands of people who were suspected of being families, wearing the costumes of various families. Everyone looked at the center of the village in the eyes of destruction, and the forest hundreds of meters near the Water Shadow Hall, and they were stunned. Looking at the 3 tails in the pit, and the feather suspected of being the Uchiha family, all forces are full of thoughts. At this time, there was a bang. The 3 tails in the crack in the land disappeared, and the 4th generation of Water Shadow Yukura crawled out in embarrassment, looking at the feather in amazement. Fang Yu collected the knife behind his waist and said lightly, "Sober up now?" Episode 94. The appearance of Yukura shocked the Mist Shinobi. Even his direct subordinates couldn't help but retreat. The moody Yukura in recent years has put too much pressure on them. The light is to kill, and the heavy is to exterminate the family. Whenever he was unhappy, there was always a place in the fogging village the next day, and the fog was bloody. To their surprise, Yukura was not angry. Instead, look around. There is sadness and nostalgia under my eyes. The assassination unit commander hesitated. You are Lord Mizukichi? In the past, this stupid question would only be exchanged for Yukura's neglect and even punishment. But now, Yukura looked at the water shadow cloak that had long been shattered on his body, and said with a wry smile, "Ah, if you mean Citrus Yukura, then it's me." Yukura's reaction made those present whisper. Yukura is controlled, and this theory is very marketable in the village of Kirito, but it has been bloodily suppressed by Yukura. In the end, everyone could only mumble in their hearts, because they were afraid of being killed. Hearing Yukura's words now, it almost confirmed the rumors that he was being controlled. When everyone thought of this, they frequently looked at the boy who hung the knife. So he is not an enemy? Yukura also looked at Fang Yu, his gaze complicated. Hate, gratitude, all of it. After some head-to-head drinking, physics, he came out of his chaos. Think about this man's behavior again, there is no malice. Otherwise, when he lies on the ground watching the ants, he can kill himself with a knife. Instead of helping him unravel the illusion. But Yukura is not grateful. Because the person who controls him has the same kind of eyes as the person in front of him. Without waiting for him to speak, Fang Yu spoke first. If there is anything you want to talk about, let's talk about it later. Frightened Yuguang swept the silent rebel army. There is a good sauerkraut fish over there, I will wait for you there. Saying that, he turned into a black light and left. Yukura was stunned for a moment, and he understood when he looked at the rebels. The faces of the people were different, some were pleased, some hated, some looked at each other, and some held the bitterness. Yukura sighed in his heart, knowing that the matter was far from over. Some people's pain will not be dissipated and forgiven because they are controlled. A sauerkraut fish restaurant without a signboard. This is hundreds of meters away from the Water Shadow Hall, which is the most innermost shop. Fang Yu controlled the range of Mudun and did not affect this. The boss is also big-hearted, and after seeing that there is no movement over there, he dares to go back to the store to see. Just happened to greet 2 guests. The boss served fresh fish soup to Fang Yu, his eyes kept staring at the battlefield, muttering in his mouth that he had just made such a big movement, and he didn't know if it was a fairy. But he didn't know the immortal in his mouth, so he sat in his shop and drank soup. Hinata still rolled his eyes, and looked at him twice from time to time. He hesitated for a long time and asked, "Don't worry about it over there?" Fang Yu was puzzled. What do we care about their family affairs? A few years of blood mist will certainly not end with a few tears from Yukura. Now revenge of revenge, revenge of revenge. Yukura seems to have no intention of abdicating, and must have an iron fist in the face of the rebels. Don't look at Yukura's small size, people are grandfathers, in terms of means and strength, they are not weaker than Konoha's group of old guys, but they are just a little kaleidoscopic. Hinata was absent-minded about dinner and kept an eye on the battlefield side. From the perspective of the White Eye alone, the 4th generation of Water Shadow has killed crazy. But others were restrained. The people who killed were probably some traitors, and they were rebels who were ready to come back and fish in troubled waters. Seeing that the overall situation over there has been decided, Richie sighed, I didn't expect the revolution in Wuin village to end so soon. He watched here for more than a month and looked forward to it for more than a month, But he didn't expect that this big drama would end in less than half a day because of the arrival of Yu. Seeing him sighing, Yu shook his head with a smile. Not long after, Yukura came over. Hinata consciously carried the cold dinner to the private room. The boss looked at the child for a while, recognized Yukura, and hit it with a roll. It can be seen how fierce Yukura's reputation has been in recent years. In fact, the experiences of the past few years have really changed him. For example, just now, he slashed more than 30 rebels. All of them came to Wuin village to share the loot in the name of uprising. Yukura didn't come to eat either, so he sat down and asked directly, "Do you know that man?" He only remembered the scarlet eyes of the masked man, and the rest was unknown. Even his purpose is unknown. Yu huffed and ate dinner, and replied, "By the way, yes, I just beat him up yesterday." Yukura was slightly stunned. The hostility on his face is slightly reduced. At least from Yu's words, it can be heard that he and the masked man are not the same group, and there are even contradictions. Yukura continued, "And your purpose?" He will not be simple, thinking that the young man in front of him has come to save him. The previous punch, this boy was a dead hand. There is quite a feeling of fighting to death or not dying, depending on whether your life is hard or not. Yu spat out one word, "Money." Yukura froze in place. "That's it?" Yu shook his head, "I'm not talking about hot money." Only then did Yukura react, "You mean, cooperation?" "That's right." Yu took out a list and placed it on the table, "You take a look first." The list mainly lists 3 goods. 1. Dehumidifier. 2. Short train. 3. Chakra armor. Yukura simply ignores the first one. The humidity in Wuin village is heavier, and the dehumidifier is also useful, but the villagers who have been tortured for several years have no money for luxury. Short train, Yukura frowned. Instead, seeing Chakra's coat, Yukura became short of breath. Their Wuin village also has a similar one-piece combat uniform, but it is only in shape. The one-piece combat suit of fog concealment, to put it bluntly, is a modified diving suit. The chakra armor, with a variety of mechanical functions, can expand combat moves and tactical arrangements. It can form an in vitro chakra circuit and improve stability, which means that it can be immune to most illusions. Yukura's eyes were red. What is the current predicament of Wuin village? The number of ninjas of the new generation has fallen off a cliff, and the older generation has died and fled. The overall combat effectiveness of the village has seriously declined. If the introduction in the list is true, then the biggest problem in Wuin village will be solved. Yukura clenched his fists fiercely. These things, even if they cost a lot of money, they must be taken. Yukura continued to read. In addition to the transaction content, the list has additional conditions. 1. All materials, fog hides. 2. All manpower, the fog is hidden. 3. Follow-up promotion, Wuin is responsible for expanding to the country of water. 4. Property safety, fog hidden responsible. To put it simply, Yu only makes money out of technology. The rest is all Misty responsibility. Yukura frowned, thinking that there was really no lunch in vain. If this list is implemented, it will send a steady stream of money into Yu's pocket. And Wuin village will also be firmly tied to the chain of interests of Yu and must not get out. Yukura pondered the pros and cons and suddenly thought of a question. He hesitated, what if that masked man comes again? Yu handed him a flying thunder god Mark Ku Wu, and said with a smile, if he appears, inject chakra as soon as possible. I'll kill him. Episode 95. When Yukura and Fenga specifically consulted. Konoha, Forest of Death. 2 figures meet here. One of them was Uchiha Obito, who the others thought had left Konoha. The other is the big snake pill. Orochimaru looked at the black-on-black red cloud robe on Obito's body and licked his long tongue. He had just recently become interested in this organization, but he did not expect to meet the people of the organization in Konoha. Obito recovered his previous proud posture, leaned against the trunk, and stared at the big snake pill. You want to join our organization? Orochimaru squinted, a little interested. He heard that the leader of the Shao organization had the eye of reincarnation, and for such a fetish, the old collector could not hold back the restless heart. As for the other members, he did not care. Obito had the style of a personnel manager, and looked at the big snake pill with an expressionless face, considering whether to appreciate the face. As a Konoha ninja, he knew his teacher's uncle well. With ability alone, the Great Snake Pill was enough to enter the Shao organization. But Obito was hesitant to bring the Great Snake Pill under his command, not Pain's side. Thinking of the famous human experiment of the Great Snake Pill, Obito interrogated, to what extent have you studied the human body? The big snake pill said, I have some distractions, but there is still a lack of experimental materials. The big snake pill is old-fashioned, and he will not be stupid enough to expose the whole card. For example, his immortal rebirth, dirt rebirth. In short, let's talk about the benefits first. Obito nodded slightly, and said proudly, there is no problem with experimental materials and funds, the resources I have in my hands are enough for you to use. Mastering one of the 5 great ninja villages, this kind of scary thing to say, do I bring soil pride? He continued, but your experiment, I need dash. As soon as he said this, suddenly a head came out from his feet. Baiju whispered, bring soil, the big thing is not good. Your lair was taken over by Uchiha. Obito couldn't pretend anymore, and was shocked, what did you say? Uchiha frightened, isn't he in Konoha? But as soon as he finished speaking, he thought of the flying thunder god. That guy. He actually took advantage of his absence to steal the Wuin village? Obito suddenly felt that his brain was a little deprived of oxygen. Wuin village is not only his killing playground, but also his important money bag. Every year, the taxes he deducted from Wuin village were hundreds of millions. Finance is one of the main reasons why he can stay behind the scenes in Xiaoxiao. What can you do with the little money in Jiaodu alone? It's not enough for Xiaonan to throw a few blasting charms. His weird ability to blur and seemingly endless money are the foundation of his ability to control the organization. If he loses his finances, his right to speak will be greatly reduced, and maybe he won't be able to suppress that guy in pain in a few years. Didn't you just make a mess at the root? Uchiha was shocked that guy, he actually broke his true root. Ah, who is this guy? Only then did Baiju realize that there was still a person standing behind him. As soon as he received the news from the Spore doppelganger, he rushed over, forgetting to detect his surroundings. Obito also came to his senses at this time and noticed that he was making a big gaffe. He looked up at Orochimaru. Although the big snake pill's face was calm under his eyes. Anyway, no matter how Obito looks at it, he feels that the big snake pill is mocking himself. Uchiha frightened. The face under the soil mask was red with shame and gritted his teeth fiercely. The big snake pill teased a little, where did we talk just now? Can you provide materials, funds? This guy, really looking at the joke. Obito-chan endured his shame and said, the things I said can naturally be done well. It's just a matter of days. You. Go back first and wait for my notice. He is not in the mood to continue hiring. Full of revenge. Uchiha actually dared to sneak up on his lair? Then I'll rush into Uchiha and kill them all. The big snake pill was excited, and when he left, he suddenly thought of something, and turned around, by the way, don't meet in Konoha next time, someone. Obito said blankly, anyone? The great snake pill added a little more contempt and said, a shadow-level expert with an extremely strong body, has been monitoring me recently. Now, probably, it's eyeing you too. On the night of the siege of Uchiha, Orochimaru also wanted to join in the fun. However, he noticed that there were people nearby who were constantly watching him. In the end, he had no choice but to let the second generation of the Flying Thunder God go to the rescue field. For some reason, the man gave him a familiar feeling. Although I don't know his identity, it's certain that that guy is Uchiha's frightened person. Orochimaru left this sentence and turned to leave. When Obito heard this, the mind that had just planned to destroy Uchiha suddenly disappeared. The shadow-level master who can make the big snake pill fearful is still strong, and he will only be entangled in Konoha when he goes. Grass. Obito hammered the trunk hard. The depression in my heart is hard to dissipate. He just wants to keep the mist-hidden village now. But if you can't fly Thor, it will take at least 10 days to rush back. When he went back, the yellow cauliflower was cold. He thought hard. Since you can't go yourself, then find someone to go. He immediately contacted the members of the Shao organization through Pain and asked who was near the village of Wuin. Half an hour later. Obito breathed a sigh of relief. Among the members of the Shao organization, 3 members were able to rush to Wuin village within 5 days. Loquat Juzo. Red Sand Scorpion. Kakuto. Obito also calmed down at this time. The strength of these 3 people is not bad, and the latter 2 have the ability to destroy the country, not to mention killing Uchiha and driving away. And in addition, the chess pieces he placed in the Wuin village can also move. Want to seize power in the misty hidden village? It's not that easy. 2 days later. The situation in Wuin village gradually stabilized. Those who want to seize the throne are no longer cut, and they lie in the hospital with serious injuries, waiting for the 4th generation of water shadows to fall. The marshal was forced to abdicate, but his subordinates were still faintly huddled, and they were currently headed by Terumi. On the side of Fingyu, the specific cooperation matters are finalized. The dehumidifier is temporarily cancelled, and the intercity traffic and other snow ninja villages send engineers to come and start it again. Chakra armor, there are 10-second version of the second version in the hands of Yu, directly exchanged for 100 million funds. After seeing the power of Chakra's armor, Yukura no longer had doubts about the next plan, but rushed to rush the goods. At this time, he probably did not realize the seriousness of the matter. And other transportation expansion to infrastructure. And other technological monopolies have kidnapped the village of Mist and even the land of water. His right to speak in this water shadow will be under the feather. To attack the city, it is also necessary to send people to stabilize and manage it for a long time. But completely kidnapping their economy, that as the father of the Gold Lord, the feather only needs to sit and collect money, and from time to time he can still call them to do things. And the end of the line is there. Feather pulled out the map, drew a dot in the land of snow and a land of water, and then connected them. A line, along various small countries, divides the entire ninja world in half. Pass through the land of Onii, the land of bears, the land of birds, the land of rain, the land of grass, the country of Taki, the country of iron, the country of Odo, the country of soup, and finally cross the strait to the land of water. Get it at both ends, then solve a few hard bones, and string the whole line together. One step closer to future plans. Fangyu pressed the knife behind his waist, Luzizi thought. His eyes looked in one direction. The day difference around him said in confusion, someone is watching us? When he fixed his eyes, he was immediately furious. White eyes. Episode 96. Fangyu and the others were supposed to stay in the reception hotel. But counting the 3 wars, Wuing Village has not picked up guests for more than 10 years, and the hotel has long been moldy. Or Fangyu single-handedly carried out civil engineering and uprooted an independent courtyard on the spot. Hinata was absent-minded all the way, still pondering what had just rolled his eyes. Frightened Yu returned to the small courtyard, and several ninjas from the mist-hidden village looked respectful, coming and going. When he encountered Fingyu, he was even more frightened, and quickly bowed and left. In the conference room, Red Bean was making a straight face, listening to the report of the ninja of the mist-hidden village, and then recording and approving it. The documents on the table, well organized. But as soon as he saw Fingyu come back, Hongdo pouted, and quickly waved his hand to let Shuei Shinobu leave. The executive who was still solemn and strict just now immediately turned into a little girl. Wow, pounce on the feather. Didn't take me to play yesterday, I also want to fight. Also, there are so many documents, my hand that writes hurts. Is the sauerkraut fish delicious? I'm going tonight too. Red Bean grabbed him and took a deep breath from time to time. In her words, every time after using Mu Duan, every time Fingyu finished using Mu Duan, there was a particularly good smell on her body for several days. Hinata covered his face, this scene really is. Can't look at it. But soon, his expression moved. Someone is coming. It's that guy. Hinata's face is very bad. White eyes are the most precious possessions of the Hyuga family and are rarely lost. 10 years ago, when the 3 wars were in full swing, a Zong family was gouged out when they had a small conflict with Wuing Village. Later, Konoha has been busy fighting with Yunin Village and Awain Village, and has no chance to get it back. I didn't expect to run into it at this time. Seeing that a guest was coming, Hongdo got down from Fangyu, sorted out his clothes, and returned to his solemn appearance. A man and a woman came. The woman walked in front, with reddish-brown crossed curls, and her right eye was covered by hair. Red Bean sensed the danger and looked nervous. Because this guy is too big. She couldn't be clearer about feather preferences. Yu Guang looked, sure enough, this guy's eyes just left from the mountain. Mr. Frightened. Terumi bowed her head slightly. Frightened and looked at the man behind her. Around 40 years old, long blue hair broom-like up, one-eyed. At this time, Zhao Mei also noticed the day difference behind Fingyu, and looking at the hostile white eyes of the day difference, she secretly said in her heart that it was going to be bad. Her eyes rolled slightly, and she quickly made a choice. Zhao Mei's expression did not change, and naturally said, I heard that Mr. Fingyu and the Hyuga family have a close relationship, so I specially brought my subordinates down to make amends. The blue expression behind her tightened and clenched her fists. Terumi looked back at him lightly. Qing looked struggling, took a breath, and took off the blindfold to reveal the white of his eyes. Terumi smiled and said, it's all up to Mr. Fingyu to deal with it. Fangyu shook his head lightly and looked at the sun. This woman, who should have been a water shadow, really couldn't fault her reaction on the spot. Hinata looked difficult, glanced at Fingyu, and bowed his head slightly. Although he is usually a little indecisive, he is not a person who has not pressed the numbers. Maybe the elder brother is here, and he can still give a word of advice to the little gentleman, and his identity. Forget it. It's up to Mr. Xiao to decide. In that case. You, come here. Fangyu beckoned to Qing. The green-legged stomach was soft, but he did not dare not go. When he walked to Fangyu, he saw Fangyu stretching out his hand towards his head, covered in cold sweat, but did not dare to close his eyes. He was able to get to where he is today, thanks to this white eye of the Hyuga family. If lost, he is doomed to a plummeting status. Well? When that hand approached, Qing was stunned to find that it was not picking his eyes, but sticking to his forehead. A scorching force entered his forehead, gradually turning into a complex spell mark. Qing studied the Hyuga family for a long time and immediately realized what it was. Caged bird. Qing swallowed his saliva, his expression complicated. Being carved into a caged bird means that his life and death are only in the thought of feather and shock. But the good thing is that the eyes are still usable. As long as Wuyin village still maintains good cooperation with the genius in front of him, then his status will remain the same. Okay. Fangyu lowered his hand and wiped it with a handkerchief. The cold sweat of the greasy uncle. Looks like I'm going to take a shower a little more tonight. At the same time, he looked at Terumi and said with a smile, what happened today? The so-called apology is just a temporary rhetoric. Terumi horses shot up, Mr. Fangyu is not only outstanding, but this intelligence is also amazing. After saying that, her own face turned red. The business is not skilled. Fangyu smiled and let people into the room and sit down. Terumi quickly adjusted her mood, and after seeing that Fingyu spoke better than expected, she simply said bluntly, I believe Mr. Fingyu can also see it, now we have a relationship with Shueing. Somewhat embarrassing. Lord Mizukage listens to Mr. Fingyu the most now, see if you can. Terumi looked at Fingyu expectantly. In fact, Terumi didn't have much enthusiasm for the location of Water Shadow, and if the mist-hidden village went in a good direction, she didn't have to risk going against a perfect human pillar. But now that she is suspected by Shueing, her situation is very embarrassing. Having just taken over power from the marshal, she wanted to find a path for her subordinates that was not good, but at least fair. Frightened you was amused. I was worried about how to get this F-box in, since everyone is coming. Fangyu said, let's not say why I went to help you say good things, even if I did, are you sure that it is to promote your relationship, not to make Yukura more jealous? Jiaomei was stunned when she heard this, and after thinking about it, she couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If Shocking Yu is going to say good things, then in the eyes of Yukura, the large army of Terumi is the concubine of Shocked Yu. What is this trying to do? Engage in isolation, or prepare to seize power again? Seeing Jiaomei's look of fear, her eyes flashed. Relationships are slowly repaired at work, and it takes time. It's better like this, Yukura and I are negotiating a deal, and we need a ninja escort with good strength. This task is yours. Fangyu pulled out the map and pointed to the land of snow. As long as she arrives in the land of snow, stay for a while. After waiting for Terumi to leave happily, Red Bean snorted twice, burying his head in work, intending to ignore Feather tonight. At night, I don't eat sauerkraut fish either. Eat. Red Bean looked down. Eat papaya. Eat every day. Wuyin village ushered in a long-lost peacetime. The basement of the Ministry of Intelligence has just experienced a killing. Episode 97. Ministry of Intelligence, bloody. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel carried the newly arrived mackerel mussels and waved them with interest. From time to time, the handle of the knife sends a signal of pleasure in the mussels. It doesn't look like it's been nice to stay with you. Like me even more. The ghost mackerel looked at the corpse on the ground in disgust. On the ground lay a round ball-like man, with long orange hair wrapped around the corpse, comical like a bow. It was one of the 7 people of the ninja knife who escaped from Kai's father by luck, the former user of the mackerel, the watermelon mountain puffer ghost. He is also the top boss of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. At this time, a figure came out of the wall. Baiju smiled and looked at the ghost mackerel. People are also killed, it's time to do things, right? A few months ago, Abito had just recruited the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. At that time, the ghost mackerel was a good hand in the Ministry of Intelligence. The absolute purpose of the Intelligence Department is to resolutely not leak information, and for this reason, it will not hesitate to destroy the mouths of its own people. The ghost mackerel is outstanding, and it is always the last one to live in times of crisis. In order not to leak information, he had to swing his butcher knife at his companions who might be arrested. Over time, the ghost mackerel began to doubt life. Obito took advantage of the void and brought it under his command after a flicker. However, before he could officially join, Wuin village underwent drastic changes. In order to stop Yu, Obito not only called for support, but also began to lay out the layout so that the chess pieces that had been sprinkled in the mist-hidden village over the years moved. The ghost mackerel is the most important of them. Baiju saw that the ghost mackerel was slow to respond, and urged, "If you don't make a move, the Wuin village will change owners." The ghost shark's mouth cracked and scoffed, "Change the owner, isn't that better? Say, wave the knife." The hideous body of the mackerel broke the bandage and opened his mouth to swallow Baiju. Chew it, and spit it out in disgust." There was only a pool of white items on the ground, like chewing gum. Ignoring Baiju, the ghost mackerel carried the corpse of Watermelon Mountain to the Water Shadow Hall. After a while, the white of chewing gum squirmed and gradually returned to its original state. This time, the other half is black. Baiju was aggrieved and said, "This guy's mouth is so smelly." Heiju conspired and said, "It looks like the ghost mackerel is about to defect, we need another way out." Baiju was surprised, "To surrender?" Heiju was stunned, hating that iron could not become steel. "What surrender? We're not out of luck. Think about how we did the previous generation of three-tailed people." Baiju overwhelmed Heiju and tilted his head and muttered, "What is that little girl in Konoha, Rin?" Another 3 days later. Yukura reorganizes the ninjas in the village and the rebels who return. And sent a signal back to the Blood Step family, but there is no response at present, and the killed Blood Step family is afraid of being a trap and does not dare to gamble with their lives. The only thing that has caused a sensation in the village in recent days is probably the boss of the ghost mackerel. After the ghost mackerel killed Watermelon Mountain, he carried the corpse and directly found the 4th generation of Water Shadow. He was almost killed by the assassination department as an enemy. I don't know what Shueying and Ghostfish talked about afterwards. But in the afternoon of the same day, the 4th generation of Water Shadow announced the crime of the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost trafficking village intelligence. And the ghost mackerel became the new head of intelligence. Wuin village is busy and busy. The most relaxing is the 3 of them. The chores have been taken care of, and then wait for the Snow Ninja village to bring someone over. Shop every day, check in, and relax. The morning was foggy, and it was not yet time for work. On the bay, Red Bean carries a long fishing rod, and a purple viper is tied to the end, alive, staring viciously at the sea. Frightened, you glanced at the cabin without a trace. It is full of fish, caught by red beans, and the various species of fish are now unified purple and emit a fishy poisonous gas. Fishing is not necessarily for food. Just be happy. Frightened, you looked at the sea sleepily, pondering the check-in reward in his heart. Today is the spring festival in my hometown, and it is another holiday overtime clock-in. The 5 elements escape technique has arrived, and I don't know what reward will be later. In addition, he has some vague expectations. He currently has 2 holiday check-ins, one is the founding day of the village when he was born, and the other is the spring festival when he is 6 years old. Now, 6 years later, I don't know if the new features will be unlocked again. Duck egg yolks jump out of the sea, and the surface of the sea looks like crumbled gold leaf. A system prompt sounds. Ding. Success at work. This check-in time is the spring festival, get the holiday check-in reward. Chakra amount plus 1300. Perception plus 200. Pupil power plus 800. Flying Thunder God proficiency plus 1000. Gain new attribute, wind. Spring festival extra reward, Thunder Robbery. Robbery Thunder is stored outside the 5 elements, and the subsequent Easter egg reward for the 5 elements is checked. Preview 1, the next spring festival check-in will be the 2nd series of rewards. Stay tuned. Preview 2, the host is over 12 years old and is about to start the next holiday. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for a yarn. Frightened growled. What a hint. Lantern Festival, Dragon Boat Festival, Qingming Festival, Qixi Festival? It seems that it will only be known until that day. Feng Yu shook his head helplessly and incorporated all the rewards into his body. Chakra volume, perception, and pupil strength have all grown a lot. The acquisition of Flying Thunder God's proficiency has made him more proficient in his mastery of space, and a few more times, perhaps develop the follow-up functions of Flying Thunder God again. And this grand prize? Thunderbolt. This is familiar to Feather Feather. In the novel, when the cultivator ascends, a thunder is approved, which is called a sourness. Amazingly powerful and devastating. Not only does it hurt the body, but it also inflicts an equally devastating blow on the spell and soul. Moisture. Frightening Feather mobilized the thunder, and the silk electric snake ran in the palm of his hand. However, the electric snake does not have the usual thunderous blue. It's inky black. Just a few threads, but the thread is several times greater than before. Even Jing Yu himself felt his palm tremble slightly. It was a kind of life's instinctive fear of thunder. He is like that of himself, not to mention anyone else. Shoo, why does it feel a little cold all of a sudden? The red beans 2 meters away were excited, and goosebumps came up all over their bodies. Jing Yu smiled and put away the thunder. Although the thunder robbery is not in the 5 elements, the destructive power alone is definitely stronger than the 5 elements of the technique. Amaterasu in the fire. Thunder in thunder. And even more. 3 hours later. Jing Yu yawned and returned to the village with red beans. As soon as I arrived at the gate of the village, I felt a signal from the Flying Thunder God. It was the Flying Thunder God mark he gave to Water Shadow before that was awakened. Just as it happened that Jiao Mei rushed over, looking anxious. Quick, Mr. Jing Yu. There's something wrong with Water Shadow. Episode 98. Jing Yu thought that he had brought soil, and the Flying Thunder God passed in an instant. As soon as he landed, a beast claw struck. Jing Yu raised his hand to stop it, and there was a burst of explosions. The 4th generation of Mizuki Ukura is covered in a tailed beast suit, his posture is violent, and there is a faint tendency to run away. In terms of the control of the Ukura Perfect Man column, there is obviously a problem. He looked around. The newly rebuilt Water Shadow Hall was destroyed again, and there were many members of the assassination department lying on the ground, their lives and deaths unknown. A little further away, a group of people gathered nervously. The face was full of horror and confusion. They didn't know why Shu Ying, who had just regained his senses, suddenly became violent again. Quick, take me. Get out of this. Ukura found that it was a feather, his eyes cleared for a moment, and he held out a sentence in pain. Having said that, Ukura kept moving, and when he was caught with one hand, he took the short man and twisted around and whipped his legs. Jing Yu's eyes froze, and his left hand put on it and grabbed it. At the same time, the rich wooden chakra lit up, condensing into branches that locked the joints of Ukura, making it immobile. Terumi and Red Bean arrived at this time. Looking at the crazy Water Shadow, Terumi said worriedly, Lord Water Shadow, could it be that the 3 tails have gone violently? Jing Yu shook his head, his eyes fixed on the heart of Ukura. Being so close, he could feel that there was a 3rd force entangled in Ukura's body. Similar to banning. Shocked. Mr. Jing Yu. Ukura was stimulated by Mu Dun and regained some sanity again. The expression was a little expectant, a little sluggish. Jing Yu shook his head again. Some prohibitions, almost inexplicable. Even if Jiao Shinai was summoned at this time, there was no way to use this prohibition, at least not before he died. At this time, Jing Yu roughly guessed what happened to Ukura. Just like the previous generation of 3-tailed people, Julie Noera Rin. The heart position was banned. Once turned on, it will run wild. And he can't commit suicide, he can only become a tailed beast weapon, go crazy wantonly, and destroy everything he can see. In the end, Rin Noera had no choice but to let Kakashi kill herself. And that scene also became the source of all evil in the plot of Hokage. Let Kakashi become a 5-5. Let Obito embark on the path of world destruction. Oh, that's ironic. I didn't expect this scene to reappear, and it was actually in the old nest with soil. Jing Yu thought that it was probably not Obito who made this hand, and with his sensitive personality, it was impossible to touch this prohibition that killed Lin. In this way, it should be a ghost that must be made up. There was a stalemate here, and Qing came over with the newly appointed Ministry of Intelligence. Qing hurriedly reported, just now, there was a vicious incident in the intelligence department, the assassination department, and the medical class, and some ninjas began to kill each other. Ghostfish added, these are all people who have seen 4 generations in private before. Obito appeared in his real body, only for the ghost mackerel. But it's not that other people really don't move, it's just that those are brainwashed in the name of 4 generations. These hidden dangers broke out at the same time, coupled with Ukura's violent departure, the impact was not small. But Jing Yu frowned. That alone may not be enough. The one who peeped secretly should know that he could suppress Ukura. Is it possible, and the backhand? Frightened Feather, I almost can't control it. Ukura struggled to fight the prohibition, but his body struggled more and more. Looking at the terrified ninjas and villagers in the distance, Ukura became more and more desperate. Kill me. I can't control myself. Frightened Feather opened the kaleidoscope and briefly controlled Ukura. With his free hand to draw the knife, Jing Dun chakra attached to it, turning into a 3-meter knife. He waved his hand, but he slashed behind the red bean. At first, the ground was unharmed, except for a paper-thin knife mark. Suddenly, the ground squirmed, and more than a dozen broken roots collapsed, like a severed earthworm struggling. Hongdo hurriedly escaped, and wondered in his heart, in addition to Fingyu, there is actually someone who can escape? Ho ho, horror perception, I'm afraid it's second only to the people of the Vortex clan. A giant pitcher plant rose from under the soil and was more than 200 meters away from everyone, a distance that exceeded the range of the kaleidoscope pupil technique. Nepenthes opens to reveal a black and white figure. Baiju's palm takes on the appearance of a tree, and it is constantly being restored to its human hand. The silent sneak attack just now was his credit. Fangyu didn't look at it, and swung his knife again. This time, the targeted Yukura. What a tough guy. Kuro laughed and pinched it with one hand. Yukura's heart suddenly suffocated, and his body exploded instantly. It turned into a rain of flesh and blood. Frightened, Yu pulled away in disgust and fished out a piece of flesh and blood to store it. Enjoy the last moments, Mio. Heiju held a beating heart in his hand, densely covered with black and purple lines, exuding a fishy smell. The heart is alive and does not disappear until it stops. As his words fell, Mio, who should have died with Yukura, landed out of thin air, setting off a violent wind. The scarlet eyes showed that this guy had lost his mind. The ninjas around them were terrified. For generations of water shadows. Just died? Kill that guy. Let's go together. Avenge the 4th generation. The crowd pointed the finger. As for the 3 tails, they believe that Lord Fenga can solve it. Look at the ninja rushing towards me. Baiju crossed his waist with one hand and laughed wildly. The war is about to begin. His body swelled, splitting into spores one after another, turning into his appearance. There were actually hundreds. That's probably not a big amount. But there are other people behind him. So. A red figure flew in and stabbed a ninja to death in the air. Then, hundreds of the same figures, suspended in the air, swooped in. Red secret technique 100 machine exercise. Looking at the red-clothed puppet of Bai Dao, a handsome young man with short red hair walked over. At the same time, 3 black monsters, swallowing thunder and spitting fire, quickly reaped. A bald man. No, it's a middle-aged man with hair wrapped in his hair who instantly comes to his side. Oops, it's all so fast. The seniors are really powerful one to many. A man with short black hair and no eyebrows ran over carrying a large knife. The eyes looked at the familiar village with nostalgia. The 3 of them were uniformly wearing robes with red clouds on a black background, and their momentum was amazing. Red Sand Scorpion. Kakuto. Loquat Juzo. The 3 received a notice from Pain, who was said to be bullied, and came to the rescue. The 3 of them looked at each other and quickly found their target. Because it's conspicuous. The man stood sideways in front of the huge 3-tailed. With one hand facing back, hundreds of giant trees bind the 3 tails sturdily, like hairy crabs in autumn. The eyes look at this side, calm and waveless. The weakest loquat of the 3, Juzo, shrunk his neck. Lie in the groove, ruthless. He muttered, isn't this idea too sticky? Episode 99. Loquat Juzo is very real. After all, the reality is so. Binding the tailed beast with one hand, this picture is too shocking. He suspected that except for the leader, the other bigwigs in the organization did not have this ability. Looking sideways, sure enough, the face is ugly. Ho ho, I thought that this guy's strength was amazing before, but I didn't expect that time it wasn't all he had. Such a superb Muduan, the 1,000-hand pillar was not so strong when he was young, right? Plus this guy's flying thunder god. Heiju smiled, but his eyes were full of solemnity. He lived for 1,000 years and rarely saw such a genius. Unfortunately, he is not surnamed Dadamu after all. No matter how strong the talent is, it is only the appearance of the 1st generation in the end. Ching, take people to evacuate the surrounding people. Shiro, go to the hospital and evacuate the people. People from the assassination department, go and kill those white monsters first. The rest of you, follow me against the puppets. On the battlefield, for generations after death. According to the natural result of the beautiful world, command the power, simple and decisive order. Her voice overwhelmed the audience, quickly stabilizing the army's heart. And let everyone have a goal. Even Red Bean, who has been secretly comparing, has to admit that Terumi is a natural leader. She struggled in her heart. The danger facing this feather is even greater than ever. You have to do something yourself. her gaze swept quickly across the battlefield. Notice the countless shadows on the ground, which are puppets flying in the sky. She tried to hook one with shadow mimicry, and the puppet stopped moving. Hongda was happy. That red-haired boy, leave it to me. Soon, however, the puppet trembled, and a huge force tried to pull it away. Red Bean's eyes froze, and he saw the chakra silk threads at the end of the puppet's body. She felt the great force and calculated in her heart. I can probably cope with 10 puppets at the same time. Too little. At this time, someone came over. Zhu's lips poured pink smoke, and the puppet quickly dissolved. Terumi looked at Hongdo and said, "It seems that we can cooperate." Red Bean snorted softly, but did not refuse. The two were cooperating, and the two kunai stalks flew slowly and landed at their feet. Looking along the direction of Ku Wu, Fang Yu was turning his head. Red Bean held the flying thunder god symbol Ku Wu, and his heart was warm. Fang Yu's attitude showed that he recognized his battle, but he was also a little worried, leaving her with the pain of transmitting and positioning. However, in a blink of an eye, he saw that Terumi also had it, and pouted again. Flower-hearted turnips. The most dangerous place on the battlefield is where Feng Yu stands. Mio roared frantically behind him. In addition, Kakuto, Ju, and Loquat Juzo are staring at this side. There was a constant killing sound all around. But no one dared to disturb them, and even fought farther and farther, consciously avoiding this side. There are many ninjas in the mist-hidden village, but there are scorpions, and they can't have the upper hand for a while, and they can only rely on Terumi and Red Beans to grind. Fang Yu shook his head slightly, and quickly sealed the seal with one hand. 5 elements of water break. The majestic chakra poured into the soles of his feet, and the earth shook slightly, as if some monster was about to break through the ground. Burst. Burst. When the surface arches to a certain extent, fountains several meters thick gush out. The amount of water is almost as good as a lake. The ground quickly collected a water level nearly 2 meters high, and then slowly receded. But that's enough. The ninjas of the mist-hidden village were ecstatic and cast grateful glances at Feng Yu. The ninjutsu they are best at is naturally Shui Duan. With the terrain creation of Lord Feng Yu, their strength can be taken to the next level. This guy's water escape is also too terrifying. This cannot continue. The horns are called back to the black monsters and adjust their ordering. Wind attributes, fire attributes, and earth attributes are outside. The thunder attribute and the water attribute turned into a mask and were embedded in his shoulder. This guy is wrapped in 3 tails in one hand and can only fight with one hand. Kakuto said to Loquat Juzo, "You drag him closely, I will attack. Fight for a quick solution to him." Loquat Juzo looked at Fang Yu and snorted. Randomly shook his head, called out to puff himself up, and rushed forward. Loquat Juzo carried a decapitation knife and slashed at Feng Yu with great force. Don't hurt the enemy, just let him raise his hand to complete the task. Feng Yu raised his hand. But it is not a blocking knife, but a single pinch. Boom. A shadow doppelganger came out and carried Ku Wu up. Boom. Loquat Juzo was blocked and looked at the shadow doppelganger in a daze. Am I not going to lose face? A shadow doppelganger sent me? However, soon, he discovered that a shadow doppelganger against himself was indeed enough. Kakuto looked at the Loquat Juzo, who was gradually being led away, and was also stunned. This teammate is really reliable. Heiju also calmed his face and looked around to observe the battle situation. The scorpion is entangled by 2 women and hundreds of mist shinobi. Loquat Shirzong's strength is a hard injury. Relying on him and Kakuto alone, I am afraid that they are not opponents of Feng Yu even if it is only single-handed. At this time, Kuro noticed the 3 tails. The 3 tails, who were bound by layers of water, were hit by the current, and their breathing became heavier. Heiju's eyes lit up, and he said in a low voice, "Use more water to escape, or lure him to use water to escape." The 3 tails are originally aquatic creatures, and their combat power on land is halved, and if they can add it, Kuro believes that the balance of victory will tilt in his own direction. Jiaodu is experienced and spicy, and immediately understands the key points when he hears the words. Wind escape, crushing. Kakuto left shoulder mask, spit out a ball of high-pressure wind. The wind ball was close to the feather and suddenly exploded, forming a large area of high-speed rotating storm area. The fire monsters that were watching around them spat flames at this time. Fire, head hard. The flames blurted out, spread rapidly, and turned into a sea of fire. The sea of fire was quickly attracted by the rotating storm, turning a radius of tens of meters into a firestorm. Compound Ninfa, Flamestorm/Strange Face Explosion. The wind fuels the fire, and the fire takes advantage of the wind. The wind blade has the scorching effect of the fire attribute, and the flame has a harsh whistling sound. Let the waters evaporate quickly. Large areas of boiling water vapor, evaporating. Triple damage. The mist shinobu and Baiju, who failed to get away in time, quickly perished in the scream. Rumble. 5 elements water escape, multiple water array walls. Walls of water were erected to completely isolate the firestorm. The two merged, once again setting off a large amount of water vapor, converging into the sky. The waters above the ground are also gathered deeper than before under multiple water arrays. The horn spat out thunder and pretended to attack. From time to time, his eyes looked at the 3 tails behind Fingyu. Seeing the 3 tails soaked in the water and gradually furious, Kikuto laughed with Kuro. Soon, however, their faces froze. They found that Fingyu also smiled. Episode 100. Bang. Click. Above the misty hidden village, black clouds are dense. In the black clouds that gathered at an unknown time, the thunder dragon swam away. Torrential rain is coming. Watering the battlefield, washing away fresh blood. Heiju looked at the sky and had a sense of foreboding in his heart. Even in coastal areas, thunderstorms of this magnitude come too quickly. The water vapor just now. No, even if you add this, it's still too fast. Thundercloud, this guy attracted it. Heiju's face was gloomy. Every thunder in the sky made his heart pound. Mio was drenched in rain in the water, reveling and struggling. There are signs of getting out of trouble at any time. This was the purpose of the black at the beginning, but at this moment, he did not have the sense of accomplishment he had hoped. Because he could see that this situation was also what Fingyu wanted to see. The thunder grew louder. Can't go on any longer. Heiju said in a deep voice, let's do it together, quickly. At the same time, shouted, Scorpion, help attack. Black Absolute controls White Absolute shot, and a large number of trees rotate and spread. The scorpion took the time to look at it, and took out a water scroll from behind him with an expressionless face. Scrolls and eclipse streaming. The pipe was exposed in the palm of his hand, and the ultra-rapid water flow turned into a water knife that went straight to the sky, quickly cutting towards the feather. Jiaodu even recalled the fire monster and covered it on his face. The wind on the left, the thunder on the right, and the fire in the middle. The 3 are charged at the same time and blend with each other. Final shot. A 2-meter-thick chakra cannon shoot with a bang. The huge recoil force made Jiaodu's body retreat by more than 10 meters. It's too late, but in fact, all 3 tricks are performed almost at the same time. They are also masters, and the tacit understanding of team battles is amazing. Baijuima went straight to all parts of the battlefield, and the unity was frightened and bitter, as well as his close people. Make sure that the frightened flying thunder god lands on the ground and can be captured by him. The scorpion's water knife cut through 2 horizontal and 1 vertical. While attacking frightened Yu's body, it also blocked the direction in which he might dodge. Kikuto's final shot. Lock the feather body. Attack, instantaneous. There's no way to hide. This is the power of Shao organization members to work together. The dark eyes flickered. This attack, it's done. Attack, indeed, became. Frightened Yu does not dodge, but his right eye is slightly open. The Mercedes logo spun quickly. The right eye is activated at this time. Time anchors, locks itself. Consume pupil power and you can continue to maintain your current state. The attack has arrived. The water jet cut him in several segments. However, it recovered instantly. The final shot burns him to ashes and even unties the 3 tails. However, he still stood where he was. All attacks just like just now are illusions. How is it possible? Heiju took a step backwards in horror. Could it be Ayanagi? No, Ayanagi consumes the Sharingan. This guy's kaleidoscope is obviously fine. Wait, is this the power of his other kaleidoscope? Heiju gritted his teeth secretly, and his eyes had already drifted outside the battlefield. Bang! Leg-thick heavenly thunder fell, bursting in the water, and thunder snakes splashed everywhere. The 3 tails roared, and finally escaped from the wooden escape. Iso Fu looked at the feather with his back to it, vigilantly pulled away his position, and raised the tailed beast jade in his mouth. Frightened. Holding a knife in one hand, he raised lazily in the other, and a black electric arc flashed between his palms. The thunder in the sky surrendered and played for him for a long time. Another moment when the black thunder flashed, it suddenly became quiet. The indifferent voice of the frightened feather sounded in everyone's ears. Have you ever felt thunder? The black lightning in the palm of his hand turned into a pillar of light and rose into the air, like ink dripping into water, dyeing the sky with black thunder. Supreme coercion, falling from the sky. Everyone felt the wail from the soul and trembled for it. No one can fight anymore. No one dares to fight again. Whether enemies or friends, there is only one thought: escape. But just escape, not everyone can do it. Those below the upper shinobu were paralyzed on the ground, unable to move. The good villains above the upper patients can move 2 steps, and they are also out of breath. Hei saw that the situation was not good, directly into the soil, and squirmed wildly. Kakuto glanced at the sky obsessively, turned around and fled. The scorpion wants to leave, but the shadow is pulled by the red bean. Frightened, you stared at this heaven and earth, and gently dropped the left hand of judgment. With the thunder, let's disappear together. Heavenly tribulation, thunder, black Qilin. Roar. A long roar, roaring in the clouds. Majestic and overbearing. Click. A thunder pillar the thickness of a bucket fell from the sky. Like a sword of judgment, piercing the 3-tailed head. Bang. The black thunder pillar flickered and changed, turning into a unicorn arm more than 10 meters thick. The 3 tails are in their hands, like a family turtle. The turtle shell exploded and turned into blood and mud. The unicorn's claws grabbed the ground, pulled sharply, and a huge unicorn head appeared above the clouds. Flood desolate behemoth, look down at the mist-hidden beings. All sentient beings obey. Don't dare to move. The black unicorn looked in the direction guided by the feather and locked his gaze on the horns. The huge pressure makes the horns stiff. The threat of death was pressing closer, but he had no power to resist. Even he had a sense of foreboding. If he is devoured by that giant beast, he will be greeted not only by death, but by the dispersion of his soul. Phew. The black unicorn gasped and looked disdainful. It's like disgusting yourself for being overused. Immediately, it turned into a black light and swallowed the horns in one gulp. During the black unicorn action, it brought black lightning and swept around. The first to suffer was the scorpion. The scorpion couldn't move for a short time, so he simply abandoned all the red puppets and stacked them in front of him. At the same time, 3 generations of wind shadow puppets erected a 10-meter-thick magnetic escape wall. But with a smooth move from the black unicorn, the magnetic wall instantly shattered. The remaining dozens of puppets were smashed by lightning one by one, and finally the scorpion was not spared, and its body turned into fragments and scattered all over the place. The black unicorn dissipated. The war is also over. Mio dies, and it is not known how many years it will take to be reborn elsewhere. The horns are all destroyed. The black is fast to the thief. The scorpion is left with only fragments of one place. The mist ninjas, who were still fighting hard just now, looked at Feng Yu blankly. Like worship the gods. However, this god is a little fierce, and that trick feels like it is going to destroy people completely. Many people covered their heads and secretly looked at the sky. I'm afraid that black lightning will leak down. Under the battlefield being cleaned. Nearly a kilometer deep underneath. Baiju shivered. Heiju looked stunned. That move of thunder was the closest it had come to death in 1,000 years. That kind of black thunder and lightning is much stronger than ordinary thunder. The range of that move is very wide, and if they escape at normal speed, I am afraid that the 2 of them will already suffer. Fortunately, Heiju had a clear mind and chose the fastest way to leave the battlefield straight down. This escaped. Heiju slowed down for a long time and said in a deep voice, Wuin village, can't ask for it anymore. And the matter of Uchiha shock, it is necessary to make the organization pay attention,